You know what's funny is I was at the house getting ready to come here, and I don't know if you've seen the Chat GPT upgrade that the update they just did.
I haven't.
You ever seen the movie Her?
Yeah.
Okay. That's essentially what Chat GPT is now. You have it on your phone, and it's a voice assistant, but it's like having that Scarlett Johansson in your freaking ear. I don't know if you can have phone sex with it or not, but you can definitely, you could sit there and say, "What do you see?" And it will look through the lens on your phone, the camera on your phone, and tell you what's in front of it.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to try it.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I was asking it, I said, "What can you tell me about Charlie Miller?" And within 2 seconds,
he's an idiot.
Charlie Miller is a multimedia journalist working for the Post-Standard. Goes through your whole education history. I mean, it's amazing how much it knew about you. But then I asked it, so give me some questions I should ask Charlie Miller for my podcast today. And the one good one that it came up with is, how has the food scene changed in your years of reporting for Syracuse.com?
Well, good for Chat GPT, because that's a good question, because it has changed immensely. I've been doing this job, I think, since, well, take that back. The first food stuff I ever did was in 2012, and I was a sports editor at the time.
Yeah.
And we were just starting to get into social media, and someone said to me, "Hey, we should do best pizza in Central New York, or best chicken wings." I think chicken wings was the first one we did. And they said, "Charlie, you like to eat, or you go to bars, right?" And I said, "Yeah, a couple times a day." Why don't you do it and go to different places, engage the community, because you know a lot of people. Engage the community and find out what they think is the best wings, and you go and you test them out. So that was back in 2012. And we did. It was we put a post out to the audience, or a story out to the audience. It was, I think, in the newspaper first, if you can believe it. And people went on to Syracuse.com and voted their favorite place. And then we took, I think, the top 10 and then whittled it down to 4. And we went, a panel of judges, which included myself, went to the places and picked wings, just like we did this last weekend at Wing Fest, or at Battle of the Wings. And it was really fun. And so we did it with pizza, we did it with diners, we did it with summer drinks, I believe, and burgers. And so that was it. So I go on about my career, sports and stuff. I was running the sports department. And then, lo and behold, in 2018, I think it was, this job opened up, and my old boss became my new boss again and asked me to do the best of Central New York. So I did. So anyway, to answer your question, this is just a roundabout way. Yeah. So back in 2012, there were a lot of places to get wings, but for one thing, wings were only,
a nickel.
Well, they were a nickel, and they were mild, medium, and hot was not hot at all. And it was just, we weren't adventurous. Central New York, I think, was a plain cheese pizza, maybe pepperoni and sausage, buffalo wings, and a Blarney burger, which are great because I love all of those things. But I think in the late teens, going into COVID, I think a lot had changed. I don't know. I think honestly, the internet changes a lot of it because, or social media, because people go on and they see what else is out there around the country. They Google best hamburger, and they see that a hamburger is a lot more than just a piece of beef and burgers. People got creative. You had the Food Network come along, and suddenly everyone is experimenting with food. And I think, thankfully, entrepreneurs here took that and ran with it and got really inventive or creative with the restaurants and opening different restaurants. Sadly, COVID stopped a lot of that, but I think in that hiatus, people kept thinking. And then when we came out of it, suddenly all these restaurants started popping up. People who weren't even from here, maybe they were moving here, or they were just up in their game. So I think I think people's standards have changed as well. Obviously, everything costs a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think when people go out and spend a lot of money on a meal, they're going to expect something special. People don't go out as much, and when they do, it's a special occasion. So the expectations are a lot higher. I've found that, and they certainly are with me too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Mark Bullis said once in the podcast that he realized around the time the first iPhone came out how much of it was going to be entertainment. And I mean, that's definitely true today. How much of it, even just simple plating, you don't have to go crazy and try and put out like an Exo taco wall, right, with their greenery and their neon lips to get people to take a picture every time they're there. But even just your plating, your menu, something that's Instagrammable for someone to take a picture of and then post because they want to share it to their friends, it's all entertainment now. And I think that can be a great thing, and it can also be a really, really bad thing because maybe a restaurant owner doesn't care as much about the flavor or the quality or anything like that. They're focused on, hey, what does this look like and how's it going to look on Facebook?
I saw that. I saw that episode with Mark, and I thought he hit it spot on. But he's also been, I think, ahead of the game in a lot of ways, and he does make very Instagrammable friendly food, but he does care about the flavor, and he puts a lot of thought into it. And he is a perfectionist. I mean, you just go to any one of his restaurants and you see that. And that's why he's so successful. I can't wait until the steakhouse opens.
I'm really looking forward to that steakhouse.
I think we all are.
Yeah. I mean, especially, I don't know much about Mark aside from his restaurants that I've seen and then having him on the podcast. And I know nothing about his partner, but I found his partner on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn and saw that his past job experience is Del Frisco's, which is amazing steakhouse. When I lived in Texas, we used to go there a couple times a year in Fort Worth. And if this steakhouse is anything like that, oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing.
Oh, and it will be. I guarantee you it will be. Those two work so well together. But, and you brought up Instagram. I think too many restaurants, I think they care more about appearance than they do flavor. Plating is very important. It is, because we all want to like what we see. And everywhere you go, everyone is taking pictures of their food. I get it. I do it.
Yeah.
I do it. You do it. You and I bring lights with our with our cameras to make it look even better. So I get it, but you have to be aware of what goes well together and the ingredients that goes into each part of the meal.
Yeah.
And the drinks.
Yeah, for sure. It's I've stopped. Well, first of all, I can't tell you one of the last times I went out and sat down for a meal for pleasure. It's either all work or it just doesn't happen, or it's like lunch, just like, oh, I'm starving, let's go grab something real quick. There are so few times now that in the early days of Eat Local, every time I went out with my wife or went out anywhere, I had my phone, had my light, had my camera, I was taking a picture. But now everything's been so much video. I don't want to go through a 20-minute process to make a great video right before I eat my food.
Sure.
And pictures don't work anymore. So,
right.
But I'm constantly trying to figure out like what's next. Like you just said, saying even that, taking a picture of your food, I'm now thinking to myself, I wonder if pictures are like the old school. Pictures are like posting a picture on Instagram is the equivalent of handwriting a letter, I feel like today, which is in one sense interesting, in another sense makes me really sad for society.
Well, I agree. But I think when you do take a picture, you have to have a very good explanation of what it is that you photographed and what went into it. And I think that's very important. People, they do need the words. And while I think video is very important, I do a lot of it myself. I find myself, I try not to repeat myself because if I eat a chicken wing at one place, like on this past Saturday, we ate 16 different wings. And boy, how am I going to make each one sound different? That's it for me. I can't think off the top of my head. I have to take notes and I write down what it is that I see, smell, hear, and obviously taste, and try to figure out what is different about this wing versus what is different about that wing. Mm-hmm. And you should see my notes. They were they're almost stupid.
Yeah, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. Somebody has to be the sole reporter of what happened at the Battle of the Wings.
I actually really enjoy that competition because you're eating one item, but just different variations of that one item. And all 16 were fantastic. Mm-hmm. It just so happens that chicken wings is one of my favorite foods to eat. I know. I'm that and pizza and beer. But and my tastes are pretty simple. But you do have to figure out what goes into it. And below all that coating, the sauces, there is just a plain chicken wing, which is one of the most, or what should be and what was for years or decades and centuries, the cheapest part of a chicken.
Yeah.
And now it's very expensive. But you have to get to the core of that and figure out what is at the base of this wing? Was it cooked properly?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, the price of chicken wings, it's tripled in the past 2 years. So, right. I mean, that's one thing. And there aren't really many people that do anything truly different to a chicken wing in town. As much as I don't hate to say that, but I know I'm going to get some shit for saying that. But there aren't too many variations of a chicken wing around here besides the sauce.
Right.
Obviously, the sauce is. But everybody, for the most part, does the same. At least I haven't seen anybody in Syracuse that does anything different than just fries them. There are some like Dinosaur, Limp Lizard, who smoke and then fry, and those are great. But I think I was telling you about at the Battle of the Wings, that place Crust in Rome. Mm-hmm. I mean, they brine them for a day, then they smoke them, then they coat them, and then they fry them, and they're really incredible wings.
Right. I need to go there because I always like brined wings. I brine mine when I cook them at home, oftentimes. I think also, like OIP locally was one of the first, if not the first, to do the char grilled, and I thought that those are great.
Yeah, they are really.
I mean, because it was really different. I'd never had such a thing until I went there several years ago when Joe first started doing that or introduced that to Central New York.
Yeah,
and man, it's amazing how different they can taste after that 30-second process.
Yeah. I know Joe says he was the originator of that in Syracuse. I think that's the case, But yeah, char grilled, very good. Their honey garlic wings are phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So and even like choosing your favorite and voting all that kind of stuff over these years of doing it, how do you handle the restaurant owners who don't agree with what you have to report on or vote or judge or say?
Well, I don't expect everyone to agree with me. I mean, I'm not an expert. I didn't go to culinary school, and I don't eat at 5-star restaurants all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are some really nice restaurants that I visit when I'm not working, but I'm just a normal guy like you and everybody else.
Yeah.
And I'm just writing about what I like. As luck would have it, I like, you give me a pizza and I'm going to think I'm eating a gourmet food. Same with wings, but because I eat it all the time. I mean, that's my job, is to find the best of Central New York. That doesn't mean the most expensive. That doesn't mean the most fancy. That means what you and I like, what my neighbors might like, what my friends at the golf course or in the softball field like. We all have, we know what we like, and my job is to go out and find that, and introduce people to stuff they may not know. And for years, I've been writing this, an occasional series called Hidden Gems of Central New York, and that's just places that I didn't know existed. And if I didn't know they existed, sure as hell a lot of other people didn't know. So I'm out every day.
Yeah, it is amazing how the amount of places that I see. And that you all talk about, and just thinking about the machine that must exist for you, that you must have built in yourself to be able to find out about some of these places. Because, I know a lot about a lot of them, and then there's stuff that you write about, and I'm like, I had no idea that place ever existed.
Well, I find these places a lot of times through social media and through different Facebook groups, and through the people in the restaurant industry. Bud Lauer, he tells me stuff. Oh, so and so is opening up this crazy hamburger place. I said, huh? I said, how did I not know about this? And then I go, and if I like it, I'm going to write about it. If I don't like it, if there's something I see that I might disagree with, I'm not going to write about it. I'm not going to trash it. You know that,
right?
Because that's not my job. I'm not a critic. I'm not going to be responsible. Not that anyone would put that much stock into what I have to say, but I'm not going to tear somebody down.
Yeah.
This business is bad enough, or tough enough, I should say.
It is, and I go back and forth sometimes. I think I've tried to play the asshole indirectly. Like, I've never directly gone on Instagram or Facebook or anything in my feed and said, maybe once or twice, and said, this place sucks, don't go there, right? Because there are just some places in town that suck, and no one should ever waste their money on them. I'm of the belief, though, that there are far too many restaurants and breweries and maybe businesses in general that exist, arguably in the world, but definitely here in Central New York, and that... I think a lot of them that struggle, it's just like, hey, listen, you never should have opened in the first place,
Right. I think too often people think, oh, I like to eat, I should open up a restaurant. That's like me saying, well, I like to drink, I should open up a bar. That would be the dumbest thing, because I wouldn't know how to run it.
Yeah.
And I certainly know how to be on this side of the bar. Right. But I've seen that firsthand, Anthony. People who they think they can cook, and maybe they can, and people, who knows, maybe their mom said, you should open up a restaurant. I went to one once. They bought what was previously a restaurant, and they opened it up, and I went there because someone said it was good chicken. It was, I think, barbecue chicken or something. I went there one day, maybe a week after they opened. I'm sitting there, and I'm ordering, I think, a half a chicken, something like that. It was grilled. And I look out the window, and there's a guy putting chickens on the grill. And he's got a cigarette in his mouth. And I see the ashes fall onto the chicken. I'm saying, are you fucking kidding me? I can't eat this. And I'm not going to like it just because of what I saw.
Yeah.
And I got up and left. I think I did eat. No, I did eat, but not
the
chicken, not out of that meal. And I just didn't. I ended up not writing about it. The food was okay. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have written about it had I not seen that. They shut down in 6 months.
Yeah.
I think maybe 3 months.
Yeah. That's why I started, Eat Local. I met with, I've told this story 1,000 times, restaurant owner, right before I started Eat Local CMY, and I just had the social media business, friend of a friend. Hey, can you go meet with her and help her? Exact same story. Go in, love to cook, friends and family. Oh, it's your dream. You should do it. Quits her job managing a bank, mortgages her house, gets out loans, opens up her restaurant. 6 months later, she's going out of business.
Yeah.
Because she knew how to cook and she loved to do it, but she didn't know how to do anything else in the restaurant business. And while the cooking is incredibly important, it's not the only thing that you have to be really great at in order to keep your restaurant going. And so I left that experience and thought, what can I do where one day I would be able to say something, have a conversation, make a post, whatever, and say, go check out this restaurant and get 100 or 200 people or however many people to show up and go support that restaurant. So that's why I started eat local. It's just there is this challenge, and I think it's not official, but there is this challenge I have in like, all right, not every restaurant is great, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't go out there. I mean, we all need to go eat shitty food from time to time, right? Or expand our horizons, or whatever the case is. But I don't, while I want everybody to go eat at local restaurants, I just don't like all the local restaurants in town.
Right.
So, how do I get, I don't know, it's challenging. It's like, I can't talk about every single restaurant. I don't want to talk about every single restaurant. And how do I like, it's not my job to warn, and I understand that it's not our job to like warn everybody, hey, this restaurant sucks, don't ever go there.
Right.
Right. Because there are people with different tastes and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's like trying to find that balance. I think I'm like 60% of the way there. I'm going to shut down the Eat Local New York card at the end of this year and not do it anymore, because I feel like I have to tailor what I say in order to not piss off a restaurant owner.
That makes sense.
So it's like, I don't want to go into a restaurant and have to be worried about saying something about that restaurant in case another restaurant, not only just to not piss them off, but not to piss off another restaurant owner who may want to join the card down the road.
Sure. Well, that makes sense. Listen, I follow obviously everything that you do, not just the Eat Local, but your social media advice. Actually, I love that. It helps me, even though I'm not a restaurant owner in the business. I read it, but I know what to look for. And I find ideas from posts, social media accounts like yours.
Yeah.
Like, and not just restaurants that I may not know of, but what to look for in food. Like, you were doing some pizza reviews, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I love that you're eating it in the car.
I was trying to separate myself as much as I could.
Yeah.
I've got like 20, you made me stop those for like maybe a couple months. I was like, fuck, Charlie doesn't like them. And
no, that's not true.
Well,
that's not true. It's not that I didn't like them. I said, come on, man, don't use the same words that Portnoy uses, because we're not Portnoy, and I'm not disrespecting. I mean,
yeah,
he's a gazillionaire and has a shit ton more follows. I'm 100-aire and I have like a few thousand.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not it. I think what we do is different.
For sure.
But I learned from you before I even started doing this CNY pizza tour, and that's good. I think that's good.
Yeah.
I learn from other people in this industry.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm trying to watch old school, what I would consider like just way better quality. I'm trying to avoid social media right now just because I think it's like such a drag, but also because I think to the same extent that I've heard musicians say they won't listen to any music. Actually, Gary Clark Jr. was just saying it on a Rogan podcast. He won't listen to any music from anyone for months before he's going in to record a new album, because before he's going to write songs, because he doesn't want to be influenced by those things. Even though I'm of the opinion, every idea, if I have some new innovative idea, someone else has had it throughout history, right? If nothing new under heaven. Someone somewhere else in the universe has had the similar thought. That when we started Through One Fried, I had Michael John Haggerty. He messaged me. He's like, I thought about this name like 2 years ago. I just never did anything with it. And so that's just kind of like, we've got a great idea. Somebody else has thought of it. But I'm trying to avoid social media right now, just browsing on it, because I don't want to, not that I think I'm going to create the most creative, unique way to talk about food, but I just don't want to be influenced by I'm here at this place and you got to check it out,
Well, that's funny you should say that, because I watch and read a lot of the social media stuff about restaurants and bars, so I don't do what they do. If I hear, there are a few things that you will never hear me say are right. I will never say it didn't disappoint. Sorry, what the hell does that mean? All right, if it didn't disappoint, what did it do? And I don't want to be repetitive. I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to tell. I try to tell stories. So I mean, that's what reporters do. So I do read a lot, just so I know what other people are saying and realize, oh, well, you know what, Charlie, that's not very creative, or I mean, that's been done. So do something different. So I do.
Do you struggle with that when you're sitting down to write? Do you struggle with trying to find the creative way to tell a story, even though you're just reporting on it? In other words, like, you're not a critic, and you know, you're just trying to like say, like, essentially, here's the facts and here's my interpretation of them, or here's my take on it. So do you struggle? Do you ever struggle? Because there's a lot of times where I think that I've said the same thing now in the last 20 videos to describe beef. You know, what else can I say? What is a different way that's not douchey that I can, you know, I can choose to talk about this?
Well, of course I have. I struggle all the time. Every time I sit down to write a story, I struggle. Writing is the toughest part of creating a story. Reporting a story, going into it, is not all that difficult, because if you do your research and you go in with a list of questions, you're going to get, hopefully, if you're a good interviewer, you're going to elicit good responses, and that will give you more information. But actually sitting down, and before I came here, I sat down to write this week's pizza tour installment, which is number 20. Now, this is going to be the 20th story about a pizza place. How are you going to make 20 different than number 1?
Yeah.
But you have to. So you tell a story, and by that you over-report. It's still going to be painfully difficult for me. It's going to take me several hours to actually put the words onto the screen. But I'll do it because I got good answers out of the people I spoke to, and hopefully the readers will learn something, which is the point, and maybe want to try their pizza.
What's your process for writing? Do you try to lock yourself in your closet and listen, I'm not going to bed until the words are down? Do you kind of, hey, listen, I need another day, I'm not really feeling this one? Do you try to get over caffeinated, over buzzed?
That's a great question. I usually can't get more time because my editor and he sets expectations, and he says, all right, let's publish this on Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. So I go home, and sometimes I write over the weekend, but usually it's Monday afternoon when I really have to start cranking it out. I don't necessarily get buzzed or over caffeinated, because I used to think that, but that's not the case. Usually I do most of my writing at night, or I would say my best writing at night, and I'll finish it. I'll finish the story, say 11 p.m. Okay, and it's going to go up the next morning at 7 or 10, and I think I hit the save button, go to bed at like the other night, the chicken wing. It was not a very involved story from the Battle of the Wings. But I had to offer a certain opinion, and I included what I thought of what I thought were my favorites. I shut down at 1:30 in the morning, and I went to bed, and there was no deadline. They just wanted it up Sunday morning, whenever, 8, 10, it doesn't matter. So I wrote what I thought was pretty good. Get up the next morning at around 7, and I read it, and I do some rewriting, and I make it a lot better. The editing is, I think, more important than the writing itself, because that's when I can really get creative and inject a little bit more of my personality into it. Because on the first pass, you're not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, yeah, I might have a little scotch or bourbon with me. Sometimes, depends.
Yeah. I used to write a lot more. I used to write a self-titled, AnthonyTringale.com. What's the right way to say this without seeming crazy? It was a spiritual blog. It was a blog. I was a theology major, right? So I grew up in church. So it was that. It wasn't like, crazy.
Midwest, right? Ohio?
Yeah. Well, Northern Kentucky, but yes, Midwest.
It's the same thing because it's right across the street.
We were the tri-state area. So we were, Ohio, Kentucky, right? All that. And Indiana. And
that's my home state.
That's right. Yeah. And so, so I wrote that pretty regularly for like 4 years. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of entries. I don't even know how many, words. I printed them all out at one point and was going to try and cipher, this is 10 years ago, try and go through all of them to make them into some sort of a book. But, but my process for that, and no one read it. There was like 30 people who read it, and plus my mom, and and whoever I went to church with at the time. And I would always get in trouble by the leadership in the church because I would say things that I shouldn't have said. So they'd be like, "Hey, you can't say that." But anyway, so I've started to, and I wrote a little bit for Eat Local New York in the early days, but I've started to try and go back through. I just did it for the taco blog and the taco search, and I've tried to kind of go back through it and find creative ways and different ways to talk about food in Central New York than just trying to put everything I can in 60 seconds, and make the faces in 60 seconds on a video that I know people, friends will screenshot and send to me, and whatever the case is. Try and find more authentic ways to talk about the food than 60 seconds will allow, because I know not many people are going to watch the 5-minute version of that video if I put it out. If I said, hey, here's my full thoughts on the best tacos in Syracuse, and it's 5 minutes long on YouTube, not many people are going to go to it. If I put it out in 60 seconds or less on Instagram, I'm relatively fine. So even writing, I know not many people are going to go click the link to go read that blog. But I'm still trying to kind of get myself in the mode of doing that, if nothing else than for myself. The challenge that I have is my first pass was 1,700 words.
Well, and yeah, that's tough. And anytime I do a video, we try to keep ours between 1 minute and maybe 2.5. But I think that makes you better. I mean, again, I think editing is the most important part of the process, and it's lean. I call it putting my story on a diet, or putting my video on a diet. I got to trim the fat. Yeah, if only I could do that for myself. But it's because we're competing with people's times. Like I don't think I'm competing with Dave Portnoy or you or any other food writer. I mean, I'm competing for people's time. People who care about restaurants in Central New York or the bar and restaurant scene. They may, they want to invest 30 seconds or an hour or a few minutes with me looking at a new restaurant or at a trend or like 8 places to find good comfort food here in January. And you have to do it efficiently and effectively. So that's what I set out to do. Yeah. So more words isn't better. I think it's actually the opposite. So I really try, and I tell my students this at Syracuse University. I said, you gotta strip everything you do down and build it back up and just be efficient with your words. Longer does not mean better. And too often writers too often think that it does. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. There's, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who appreciate kind of maybe more authentic is the wrong word, because I don't think one is more authentic than the other, but I think people appreciate the time, that you get to spend with the creator, whether it's you who's writing on the Wing Fest, or it's me, or it's, whoever it is that's creating the content talking about the subject. Would you rather meet your idol or sit down by a bonfire and have a cigar and a glass of bourbon with them? Right? I think most people would say they'd rather spend more time with them.
Of course.
But unfortunately, we live in the world of, I've got 10 minutes. Hey, I have this. My son's distracted, right? I just put Bluey on the television. I've got 10 minutes now to scroll before he's terrorizing something. So, right. So what can I scroll real quick? I'm personally trying to avoid those things in my own life of like scrolling and just opening Facebook for the sake of it. I once deleted the personal Facebook, not the business side of it, the personal Facebook app off my phone. Do you know how many times a day I would sit down to go open up that app and it wasn't there? I mean, Charlie, I'm talking like 30 times a day.
Sure.
And for the first week that I was, I deleted the app. And after about a week, it was great.
Yeah.
I hate to say this to you, but someone posted about something on Where Syracuse Eats, and I was forced to download the app to go see what it was.
Well, that page does take up a lot of my time because I'm one of the moderators on it. But it's also been incredibly effective in helping me find more places to write about and engaging people. I bring people along with me sometimes. Someone will say, hey, you got to check out this pizza place. I said, all right, well, tell you what, why don't you meet me there on Friday at noon? Bring someone so they don't think I'm some weirdo. But and I'll buy them a meal and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the food. Like what made you come here in the first place? And sometimes it'll be in the story, oftentimes not. But I'll get to see their point of view, and they'll hear what I think.
I loved it. You were doing that maybe 2 years ago, when you would like bring that person. This is the whatever.
Like a hidden gem, or the first look of a place. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was like the self-titled Wing King or self-titled.
Oh yeah, yes, the self-proclaimed. Yeah. The pizza queen.
Yeah.
Nicole, I think, I think Katie Jerome.
You did it with a couple of different foods. I loved those articles.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah, because it really does. First of all, it's like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't know about this. For me, it's interesting because I don't know about this person that exists in Syracuse who is obsessed with tacos. But then it's just really cool to kind of see what their take, like where are the 5 best that they take you. And those were fun. I loved those articles.
That was a lot of fun. And Matt Rowe, we did sandwiches or sub sandwiches. Yeah. And he's funny to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I just met him in a bar one day and we got to talk. He said, you ought to bring me along, and because I know all the best sub sandwiches. I said, all right, what are you doing on Friday? and he showed up, and we did it.
That's awesome.
It was so much fun. Yeah, and I did tacos with Steve Gasparini. I got to resurrect that.
Those are great.
Yeah,
really, really good. Yeah,
I'll do chicken wings or burgers or something like that.
Yeah, maybe that would be like a great conclusion to your first year of the pizza.
Yeah, I could. Yeah. But the pizza thing is so great, though. I love it.
Do you think you're going to take it on after this year?
What do you mean take it on?
Like you're going to keep going with it?
Oh, no. I think the plan was to make this a 1-year thing. And it's funny how it came about. I wanted to do, back to the Where Syracuse Eats thing. Have you ever noticed anytime someone makes a post about Robbie T's Pizza out in Janesville, you said, I went to Robbie T's and it's great, nicest guy ever. And then you're inundated, it'll be easily 200 comments like best guy in the business or nicest guy, nicest restaurant owner out there. So I go to my boss and I said, hey, you know what? Maybe in 2024 when we're coming up with thoughts of what we should do. Mm-hmm. I said, maybe I'd like to do a profile of this guy. And he said, yeah, but aren't most pizza shop owners like happy? And I said, I don't know, maybe. He said, but I mean, pizza, it's like it makes everybody happy. It's something everyone eats. Maybe we should just do a story on every pizza place. And I said, yeah, I'm sure I could keep that. He said, no, hear me out. And I listened. I said, yeah, why the hell not? And what's the harm? If we start doing it and no one reads it, then we do like 12 of them, one a month.
Yeah.
Well, by the second week, I mean, I was inundated. Well, the first one, I don't even remember. Oh, it was Francesca's on Old Liverpool Road. I said, we're going to do a series we're going to visit as many pizza shops as we can in a year. And I'm getting texts because I'm smart enough or dumb enough to put my phone number on every story. I'm getting emails and even a handwritten note saying, "Oh, you got to try this place," or my wife and I have been going to this place for 30 years. You got to try that. Okay, all right. So then I amassed a list of I'm up to 75 places that people want me to try. So I think we agreed to do 52.
Yeah.
After December 31st, I don't know that I'm going to go and do anymore because there is a system, but like I said a few minutes ago, I try to make every one of them different because they are different. Every pizza place is different, and there's a reason why people find that to be their special place. And I'm finding that in everyone. I want to write a story where you and your wife go to X pizza place and you walk in and said, and your wife will say, "So Anthony, why are we going here?" I said, "Well, listen, this guy who he used to sell insurance and he hated it. He was so miserable and but one thing that always made him happy was pizza. So he opened up a pizza shop and now he's doing well. And he uses this cheese and this is how he makes his crust." So you learn something. So it gives you something to talk about as you're walking into this, and it makes you look smart. Right? You know what the hell you're talking about. I mean, that's my goal. But it's turning out to be pretty good. Now, what's next? I don't know. Maybe chicken wings. I would love to do a wing tour.
I was just thinking it would be great to see, like, as the next couple of years progress, to see you take on a different food each year that you go to every week. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, and maybe I will, because I mean, I'm not ready to retire anytime soon. My wife's going to retire next year, and so she'll just come along with me, I think, more often than she already does. But yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, it is interesting to try and think of. Jonathan Gould is my favorite. Was my favorite food writer. LA Times, and passed away a few years ago. But he did this thing. I forget the name of the road through Los Angeles, but he did a long stretch. I think it went. I mean, I don't remember where, but from the coast inland, I think through downtown, and he did this journey of trying every single restaurant on that road, no matter what it was. And I've always loved that. I've thought of, like, what is the road here in Central New York that we have? I mean, West Genesee, Route 5 for sure. James Street is another long one, right? I mean, that's the same thing, but you could cut up. So I think that's why I kind of like the every week the pizza things and just thinking of, like, through a different food each year, because it kind of forces you to say, like, this is the entire almost category of whatever that food is in Syracuse,
right.
And I'm going to the large majority of them. I mean, God knows how many pizza shops there are in Syracuse alone, but but you're going to a strong majority of them. If at the end of a year, if you can't properly summarize what the pizza business is in Syracuse, New York, I mean, who else can?
Right. Well, I've learned a lot, because the one thing I've learned since taking this job, I mean, when I first started, I would go in and I would say I'd like to order this and I'd like to order this, and then I would ask the owner or the chef afterwards how they made it. Now I go into the kitchen and I watch them. I've learned. Well, I just asked, and they said, "Of course, we want you. We want to show you how we do it," because they're proud of what they do.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I never thought of that. But
Yeah.
I mean, back when I was a police reporter, I would go into the neighborhoods where a crime was or whatever, and I would not just ask questions, but see what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's how you learn, and that's how you report. So I've learned more about pizza in the last 20 weeks than you'll ever know. But everyone they have little variations, especially when it comes to the crust and the sauce. Some people use a certain type of cheese. They blend it themselves. They grind it themselves or shred it themselves. Some flip it up in the air and some just push it out. And there's a reason. They all have a different reason for how they do it. But my job is to ask, why do you do it that way?
Yeah. I know you won't be able to report on them because they're in Rochester. Maybe you and I should take a trip out there sometime. But Luis, who owns Peels on Wheels in Rochester, I've never met someone who is as passionate about pizza as this kid. I mean, and I don't know how old he is. He's younger than me. I'm to the age now where if they're younger than me by 4 years, I can say this kid. But he is incredibly I mean, he uses he has 16 different flours that he uses, and he only has 4 different styles of pizza.
Wow.
It's like it's like Wednesdays we make Detroit, and that's it. And Thursdays we make this, and that's it. And Fridays we make this, and that's it.
Interesting.
And his pizza is very, very, very good. But yeah, it is funny how especially because I'll make a Detroit or a Grandma style at home, and it's funny how even trying to figure out what recipe I'm going to settle on, there isn't one tried and true that everyone uses. Everyone has a variation. Whatever it is. I wear red boxers when I make my pizza, I keep one sock on, right? Like their flour, their ratios, and their hydration may all be the same, but there's one little thing, one variable somewhere in the mix that makes them different.
Right. Do you have a favorite?
Favorite pizza?
Yeah.
In Syracuse?
Yep.
Oh.
Well, you don't even have to name the place. What type of pizza?
So if I'm going to if I'm gonna answer this question at a time that I am in love with the city of Syracuse, it is going to be Twin Trees. Do I think they make the best pizza out there? No, but there's something about having the thicker crust, the slice, not the slice cut, the strip cut,
West End cut, whatever.
To say that's a Syracuse style pizza, to be able to put our finger on that. And I know it's not the same, as what's the name of the place that was the West Side Pizza Shop for years?
Shuffles.
Shuffles. I know it's not Shuffles. And as far as I know, the only person in existence that still has the Shuffles recipe besides the family is Charlie Roman at Daniela's. But I don't think it's not on the menu, so I don't know if he serves it. But
I think he'll make it for you if he likes you.
Okay. I've reached out to him a couple times and asked him to come on, and I want to talk about that and other things, but I haven't heard back. But yeah, I mean, so to be able to put my finger on and say hey, this is Syracuse, I mean, if you're in the Midwest, and in Florida, there's Donato's Pizza, which is really thin. It's almost like a Chicago tavern style pizza, but it's cut in half strips.
Right. It's
Right.
Squares or
So take Twin Trees and then make another line that way, right? So there are those which are really good, but to be able to put my finger on it and say this is a Syracuse style thing, I would say Twin Trees. If you were asking me the best quality pizza and flavor combination that exists in Syracuse, and we're going cheese only, it's a very, very, very close tie, but it's Mario and Salvo's one.
And Pavone's.
I was going to say Paladino's.
Oh, okay.
Paladino's a Matty Dale.
Okay. Well, a lot of people say when you're talking about just cheese, those three, Paladino's, Pavone's, Mario Salvo's. I purposely didn't, when I set out to do this pizza tour, I thought, I'm just going to get the same thing at all of them. But I don't think that's, for one thing, it would drive me crazy because I love pizza and I could eat it 364 days a week or a year. And I love it, but I think every pizza is different, and I set out, or I put the ball in the owner's court. I said, you tell me what I'm going to buy.
Yeah.
And like I would say, and I did this, I've done this from day one. What would you make for yourself if the end of the night, you're hungry and you're going to go home? What are you going to make for yourself? And then they come up with something that it may not even be on the menu. And I'll say, well, why is that? And they tell me. And I like that because I'm getting a variety. Although I am steering people away from a buffalo chicken pizza because I think that's just blasphemy. Sorry. I love chicken wings. You know that.
Right.
And I love pizza, just not in the same bite. I'll take a wing and then I'll take a piece of pizza. But the way that those are made, I don't care for. But I see what you're saying. Because I would definitely agree with you that Twin Trees is definitely Syracuse. Yeah. Although in Indiana, where they don't know how to make pizza and they don't know how to make chicken wings, there's one pizza place in my hometown of Anderson, Indiana, that I grew up with, and they cut it that way. And it's almost the same.
Is it thick like that?
Yeah, it's thicker than a New York style pizza, but it's not Chicago style.
Yeah.
And it's very, very similar, although they use a crumble sausage that's spiced. I really like it, but again, Indiana, they don't know how to make pizza out there. They don't know how to make most food, except biscuits and gravy. Gravy.
And I went to my father-in-law is from Iowa, and so we've been back a couple times. But there was one time that my wife and I went back for like a week, and Iowa and Indiana, I feel like are very similar. I feel like Iowa is way more intense than Indiana, but I feel like it's similar. And there's a thing called a ham ball, which is like ground ham and graham cracker as the binder, and then it's cooked like a meatball. It's disgusting. And no one should ever eat it, but for some reason, Iowans love it. But the one thing that Iowa and Indiana have very similar is the massive pork chop or pork tenderloin sandwich.
Yeah.
Same thing.
And that is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Every time I go home, I get one. And I just visited my parents out there. And I was so happy when Brewery Union did that. And then Charlie Roman did it at the fair last year.
Oh, did he? Oh, I didn't know that.
It's killer.
Huh.
Killer. And it was the size of a hubcap.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Christian does a great job out there. He really does, And it's surprising, honestly, how successful he's been. Not because of him, just because it's Brewerton. But, from what I can gather, at least, there's such a large amount of people that travel to go visit them and go eat there.
And it's small.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that whole place is about as big as this studio, maybe a little bit bigger. But they
do it.
And they do it very well.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, I don't know. There's times that I really love Syracuse and the food. And, I don't know if now is one of those times. Maybe if somebody from a different area came in town and started bashing Syracuse food, I'd stand up and fight for it. But there's not too much. I mean, think about it. What are the Syracuse things? We have salt potatoes. We have Syracuse style pizza. We have hides, but it's not hides really. It's Hoffman's, but really that's not even the most unique thing to Syracuse in terms of food. But I don't know. It can be challenging at times. There's people like Rich Strube at Eden who are just doing like really wonderful things, and there was actually one. So I used ChatGPT when it first launched to write food articles. I was like, all right, let's see if I can get some SEO, if I can get some traffic to the website, make money off Google Ads. It's like a little side hustle. So I had ChatGPT solely. I didn't even edit it in the slightest. I just said, what are the 5 best restaurants in Syracuse? And it gave me a list. And I said, now write a 800-word blog on those 5 restaurants for me. And then I just copy and published. Right?
Interesting.
And asked me how much money I made.
$2.18.
Almost exactly. And so, but I left it up there, but I got a text from Rich one night and he was like, oh, this is an interesting list. And it was my blog. Because I would consider Eden the best restaurant in Syracuse. If we're talking about quality and innovation and, you know, truly comparing them to other restaurants in the country and the world, I would say Eden is our crown jewel at the current moment.
Oh, without a doubt, they're definitely one of them. See, I take a different approach, though. I mean, I'm not looking at 5-star Michelin type restaurants.
Correct. Yeah.
I do like the Syracuse restaurant scene. I like the food here. But again, I came from a place that they make big pork tenderloin sandwiches, deep fried, of course, and biscuits and gravy. So, and they don't know how to make pizza or wings. Out here, I happen to love pizza. I happen to love wings. And man, you can get those all over the place, and they're all different, and they're all good. That makes me happy. My job, and I'm not saying this because it's my job to write what's best about Syracuse or finding the best of Central New York. Yes, that is my job, and I'm doing that. But I truly do like this. I am a champion of the Syracuse restaurant scene because I think it's gotten so much better, and I think it's going to continue to get better. And I think people here are very proud people, and they like what we have.
Yeah. They are a proud people. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that every restaurant should be making their own pasta from scratch and dry aging their own steaks and all that kind of stuff. I understand that. Like there are shitty places that, you know, you need to go to, and I'm okay with the fact that they're dirty because, you know, the breakfast sandwich is great, right? So, you know, so there's a myriad of places that all fit into the ecosystem of Syracuse food. And, you know, there's plenty of restaurant owners in this city that don't know what they're doing. And they say, hey, I'm opening a restaurant. Cisco, US Foods rep, can you give me a menu that will work and keeps my food costs at a certain point?
Sure.
And great, here it is, and here's the products, and line cook, here's the menu. You know, so there's also, and those restaurants are also fine. They should also exist.
They're okay.
Yeah. There are plenty, like I do feel like there's just too many. Talking to so many restaurant owners in the marketing side of things where I'm like, hey, how's things going? And I talk to way too many that are struggling. And I think that part of that reason is because there's too many restaurants. I mean, part of the reason is they might suck. Part of the reason is there's too many restaurants, and we don't have enough of a population to be able to, you know, keep all of them busy. And not that we should. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that like, hey, listen, every restaurant should be making $1 million a year, and if we're not, it's because we have too many. So shame on, you know, you opening a restaurant. But at the end of the day, I still feel like we have too many restaurants. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, I want the bagel and cream cheese for $3 upstairs, even though it sucks. And I also want Water Street Bagel to exist, who makes, you know, one of the best bagels I've ever had. That's, you know,
I agree.
$5, right? I don't know. I don't know. Amato leaving was a big hit.
Yeah, but I like, and I agree. I loved Amato. It was I don't know if I should say this or not, but maybe I'm going to. It was my favorite Italian restaurant in Syracuse.
Without question.
Okay, well, a lot of people think that I'm an idiot for saying that because I should like this place or this place. Well, honestly, when they shut down, I thought it was really sad. But then when the dad decided to keep it and keep it going, I mean, because he worked there.
Oh yeah,
he worked there. He had a very, very large part in that.
Right.
And he reopened his Abiocco. I think it's just as good, and I think in some ways it's better. And yes, they don't make their own pasta, but you know what? I don't notice. He uses imported Italian pasta, and if, you know, I'm not sure that I would, well, yeah, I probably would notice if it was that versus Wegmans house brand. Right, I definitely would. I think it's very good, and they're still making the pizzas and their own desserts, and it's not a Cisco menu. And
Right.
you know what? All right, back to what you were saying about Cisco and the places like here come up with a menu. Yeah, those are the places I don't go to. But Cisco, I think sometimes, and I have no stake in Cisco.
Yeah.
But Cisco, what they do, they wholesale certain ingredients, and it's what you do with those ingredients that make it good or bad. So I'm not going to trash a place because they get their ground beef from Cisco or their chicken breasts from there. Because I shouldn't say a chicken breast is a chicken breast, but I prefer the chicken thighs personally. But I think too often people generalize, oh, that's just another Cisco product. Well, it's not. They make a good base for French onion soup, but a good restaurant isn't going to just take that, heat it up, and put a thing of cheese on it. A good restaurant is going to take that base, add some spices or a certain type of cut of onion to it, and a certain kind of cheese and croutons, and they're going to make it their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a French onion bouillon or base or whatever, but it's what they make out of it.
Yeah.
And they restaurants do have to make a profit.
For sure.
So I 100% get it.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question. I mean, now operating a restaurant today, I said this during the pandemic. During the pandemic, I would make pizzas from home. Like our COVID, trends were, I started making pizza from home. I've got backyard chickens, right? Like those were the two things, and sourdough. Those are we had the COVID trifecta of things that people did from home. And so, and I would post those pizzas online.
I remember.
And a friend of our family would always comment, "Oh my God, you need to open a restaurant one day. You'd be so busy." And I used to always reply and say, "I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy."
Right.
And having opened a ghost kitchen restaurant, I now realize I should have listened to my fucking advice. It was, and it wasn't even a real restaurant, but it was still just a stupid idea. And so having said all that, owning and operating a restaurant is incredibly challenging. And not every restaurant that exists in a city our size not every owner should be going into it with the full knowledge of food and saying to themselves, how can I innovate the food industry and the restaurant industry in my town? Mm-hmm. I wonder what that city would look like if that ever did exist. I know it's never going to. But having said that, I understand that's never going to happen, right? Like we need people who are just frying chicken wings and putting mild sauce on them, and the restaurant exists and that family's making a shit ton of money and the bar staff's making a ton of money every night, and God bless them, you know? And then we should also have places like Eden who are painstakingly making each fucking tortellini by hand and buying their chickens from the family farm where I was with that family farm. They're butchering their chickens with their, infant on their back, right? Like all of those things should exist for sure. I just wish in Syracuse we had a larger balance I wish it was more balanced, because really there's like 2 or 3. And Abiyoko is one of them, because even though they are getting the pastas, Noah is still doing a fuck ton of shit, from scratch in there. And there is not a better restaurant example of hospitality that exists than the Fiacchi family. Right. So I just wish there was more of a balance of those places. I think they're starting to pop up little by little. There's, those folk out of here.
Folk out of here, yeah.
There's them.
The food truck.
Yeah. And she did she's doing the Ghost Kitchen. There's a couple others in there. I was just contacted by a guy that used to work at Kasai. I forget his name, but he's doing a Ghost Kitchen over in Lyncourt. And he's doing some of it is like seafood boil, and I've seen a few different things on his Instagram. He just hit me up and he was like, I'm trying to get the word out. Can you come make a video? So I'm going to go check them out. And from seeing some of the stuff they've posted, it looks, great. It looks like they're trying,
Is that the place that used to be where shut down?
It may have been Steak and Sunday over there. Or no, they're in a different location. I'll pull it up right now because I don't have many. I was just messaging him the other day before Wingfest. It's called On the Fly CNY.
Oh,
So I mean that's that's their seafood boil,
yeah.
but their stuff. Yeah, I mean they don't have many followers, but they've their food. It's they've got like po' boys and chicken and biscuits and different stuff. It looks good. I'm excited to go try it. Whenever I get over there. Yeah, so there's just I would love to just see more of a balance, I guess. And I know that there's people out there that are like starting thinking about it and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
I think it's going to take time. I think our restaurant scene, like I said, I think it has evolved, and I think it's going to continue to grow. I don't think it's going to be all high end, and I don't think it's going to be low end.
Yeah.
I hopefully the middle will flourish.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think it will. It's, I mean, listen, all this money that's coming into the area and development and everything, it's going to breed something, And usually when more of it, when we have more money and more people come into the area, you're going to have a larger sect of everything, right? So you're going to have more Edens pop up, and you're also going to have more Rise and Shines pop up, and you're going to have more Dunkin' Donuts pop up.
Sadly. Yeah, I'm not a big fan. But I think a lot of the people who are going to be moving in, if you talk about Micron, they're going to see, we have things here that other communities don't have. And donuts right away. I can think of 10 phenomenal mom and pop donut places.
Yeah.
That would make you think, why the hell would I ever go to Dunkin' Donuts to begin with? I mean, maybe if you like the coffee, but that's just sad.
Yeah.
And you know what else? This is, you might call it sad, or not you, but someone might, like neighborhood bars. Growing up in Indiana, yeah, there were bars in some neighborhoods, but you would never want to go to them. Because it was more of a seedy type of place. But we have great bars in Syracuse.
Yeah.
We have great neighborhood bars. And I'm not just talking Tip Hill.
Right.
Even though I do love the bars of Tipperary Hill and I frequent them regularly. But it's a community within a community. I mean, people around here, it's funny. When I first moved here, I said, "Oh yeah, he's a Swallows guy, or he's a Nibsies guy." I said, "What do you mean?" "Oh no, he hangs out at Nibsies. That's part of his routine." And but I'm a Blarney Stone guy, or I go to Coleman's. I'd never heard of such a thing, but I love it. I love it because it gives people identity, and it's not just people going there and just sitting and drinking all day. It is a community within a community.
Yeah.
And I think that is special, and that people who are moving here from Micron, I think pizza places are the same thing. Like, oh, I'm a Palladino's guy. Oh no, yeah, I like Mario and Salvo's. You can't beat it. Oh no, it's all Twin Trees.
Yeah.
Twin Trees 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. I don't know which one is your favorite. They're all different.
Yeah. I go back and people ask me a lot of times, like, hey, what's your favorite pizza shop in Syracuse? I could tell you what I consider to be the best, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's my favorite. And it all depends. Like there's one week that my wife and I are ordering pizza, and listen, it's going to be Pies Guys because we want a thicker strip cut pizza, and I don't want to drive across town to go get it at Twin Trees. And there's going to be nights that I want a Palladino's, or I want a Pavone's, or I am going to drive because I want Mario and Salvo's, or I want Pump Pizza, whatever the case is. There's so many different styles that exist that, so.
Yeah. I haven't tried Pump yet. And
oh, you haven't?
No. I mean, I know it's the Chicago, the deep dish. And I mean, that's obviously on my list. I'm going to do it for my pizza tour. Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah.
So I've heard great things.
Yeah, Pump Pizza is really, really good. Anthony does a great job out there. They really put a lot of time, from what he's told me, into like trying to figure it out and get it down. And like 2 or 3 years ago, Tim Shore from Buried Acorn, he lived in Chicago for a while, and his wife lived in Chicago, and I think that's where they met. But he worked in bars and stuff like that out there in breweries. And so he and I did this fun thing. We ordered one day on like a Monday, we ordered a pizza from Tangy Tomato and from Pump Pizza and had them brought to the brewery at the same time. And then we tried them on camera, and I said, which one is more authentic, is what I asked him. And he said, Pump Pizza. And so the next day, he and I flew to Chicago for the day.
I remember you doing that. That was great.
And it was a lot of fun.
Sure.
The one thing that I realized is in Chicago, there's like Lou Malnati's, which is like Tangy Tomato. And then there's Gino's. And I'm sure there's others that are similar to Gino's, which is Gino's is very similar to Pump Pizza, and Uno's. It's like kind of the biscuity crust, and neither one of them locals really care about. Locals don't give a shit about either one of those. They eat tavern style or Pequod's Pizza, which is like a Detroit Chicago hybrid. Like that's really what they go after. So. That was pretty interesting. A lot of great pizza that day. I've never released this video, and Nick Sanford is like every once in a while mentions it to me. Nick Sanford and I took a day trip. We drove to Connecticut. Yeah. And went on like this 12 pizzeria tour that he took me to. I mean, we went to like the place that he was working at when he was like 16 years old. And so, like the owner was still there when we happened to show up, and the cook that worked there when Nick was 16 was there, and
did they remember him?
Yeah, they remembered. I've got him on camera. You know, them talking and hanging out and talking about his pizza shop now, and then going to this Jimmy's is it Jimmy's? Oh man, was it? I think it's Jimmy's Pete's. And anyways, like but he used to get a buffalo chicken pizza from them like once a week because it was like the best one you've ever had in your life, and then go into all of the, you know, Pepe's and Modern and all these different places, Sally's that, you know, everybody goes to. And that was a lot of fun also. But, yeah.
You know, speaking of Nick, and I don't know what to do. Maybe you can shed some light. So, you know, I want to do at least 52 pizzas for this pizza tour, and I'm scoring them. I do crust, toppings, cost, or value. I forget what I call it. And, charisma, like the overall. Should I include the wood fired, like a pizza and toss and fire and abbiocco? I mean, should I include them, because that's vastly different than Mario and Salvo's?
I would. I would.
I think they should be their own category.
Maybe I definitely would not put. And don't get me wrong, I love Toss and Fire. And Nick does a phenomenal job with his pizzas there. I would consider a pizza and abbiocco and also Via Napoli in sort of a separate category than I would Toss and Fire. And now Toss and Fire. I
mean, they do regular pizza as well.
Toss and Fire?
Yes.
Yeah, Nick does everything. I mean, he's got Detroit and he's got the wood fired, plus he has just like a regular New York style if you want.
Yeah.
And I don't know of a person in Syracuse that understands more about the different pizza styles than Nick Sanford. I mean, that guy's absolutely loves it. And he and I at Harvey's will sit down and sometimes hang out and talk for like an hour about stuff, and it's just his knowledge of pizza is like I've never met anybody else in Syracuse that has it. But a pizza and abbiocco and Via Napoli, even though Via Napoli is like the only real Neapolitan style in Syracuse, they're so different than Toss and Fire, and not in a bad way. But Toss and Fire is like a wood fired pizza that you could mistake for a Friday night pie, right? A pizza and abbiocco and Toss and Fire are not mistaken for Friday night pies.
No, they're not.
You know, I mean, you know, a pizza just had like a ramp. Granted, it was special within season, but they just had like this huge like ramp pizza. And you go to abbiocco and you get like their sausage and long hot. Like that's not a Friday night pie. It's delicious. It's one of my favorite things that exist, but it's not a Friday night pie.
Right.
You know, Via Napoli is not a Friday night pie.
No.
And Toss and Fire, while he can still hit all the quality ingredients and love and passion into his pizza with wood fire that he does, you could still mistake it for a Friday night pie.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I don't know what I'm going to do,
Yeah.
but I'll figure it out.
Well, I'll let you get going. Pushing happy hour.
I have to go home and finish my story.
Oh, nice.
But
yeah,
having a beer and a bourbon, that'll help me.
Well, listen, thanks for so much for coming back in. It was great to see you.
Anytime.
Yeah. And if everybody who's listening or watching, make sure that you head over to Syracuse.com. You can see Charlie's articles coming out once a week, following, going around to everywhere in Central New York, trying 52 pizzas, a new pizzeria every single week, which is a tall,
and that's on top
task.
of everything else. I still have to cover the restaurant scene too.
So not only that, but then catch him in the Where Syracuse Eats Facebook group. And
oh boy.
Thanks everybody. Thanks, Charlie.
See ya.